Tov, today's daf yomi is Gittin daf Chavdad, Gittin 24. We're going to start right after the Mishnah on 23b, that our Mishnah had said that a woman who's not believed, there are 5 women who, because of their adversarial or possibly adversarial relationships, they're not believed to say that another woman's husband has died. And so also our Mishnah had said that these women are also not believed to bring the get as an agent. So the Gemara says, Vatanya, the Mishnah had said even those women who are not believed to bring the get, to say their husband has died, are believed to bring the get. So the Gemara says, but wait, we have the opposite. The Brisa says the opposite. So the Mishnah says that they are believed to bring the get, but the Brisa says they're not believed to bring the get. So how do we deal with this apparent contradiction between the Mishnah and the Brisa? So it says Rav Yosef Kasha, it's not difficult. One refers to a woman bringing a get from Eretz Israel, and one refers to a woman bringing the get from outside of Israel. As Rav Yosef explains, it's in the land of Israel. We're not really relying upon her. She doesn't have to say anything. She doesn't have to say b'fanai naftam, and so therefore she's not doing anything, and so therefore we're going to believe her. Mehemna. But b'chutzlar, that dibura didakas amchinu, but outside of Israel, that we're actually relying on the words that she's saying. Well, mehemna, we're not going to believe her. That's Rav Yosef's explanation. It says Abaye, Amri Abaye, Adarabba, just the opposite. The opposite approach is more logical. Ba'ar, it's in the land of Israel, the Asi Baal Ma'arer. That if the husband would come and challenge the get, he would have credence, he'd have standing to do so, because she never certified it, because she didn't say b'fanei nechtam. So therefore, Asi Baal Ma'arer, U'mashkachina Bey. So in the land of Israel, the Asabal Ma'ara Mashkachina Bay, in the land of Israel, where the husband that can come and challenge it. And so therefore, if the woman had remarried on the basis of this woman's agency, of the woman bringing the get, we'd have huge problems. So therefore, we could say that this woman who's bringing the get could be trying to mess up her adversarial the adversarial woman. And so for this reason, in the land of Israel, well, Mehemna, we're not going to believe her. Whereas Bechutzla, it's the Iasi Ba Ma'ara, but outside of Israel, where once she says B'fanei nechtam, we're saying the get is certified, and so therefore the husband can't come and mess it up. So therefore, for these reasons, we're not going to listen to him. So therefore, Mehemna. So according to Rav Yosef, we believe her in Israel if she's bringing from within Israel, because she doesn't have to do anything. Whereas we don't bring her from outside of Israel because she has to say According to Abaye, it's the opposite. We believe her only outside of Israel, because then it's certified and the husband can't mess it up. But in Israel, we don't believe her because the husband could still mess it up. So Tanya Kavasi da Abaye, there's a Brisa that supports Abaye that we only believe her if she's bringing the get from overseas, because Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar says in the name of Rabbi Akiva, a woman is believed to bring her get from a kal v'chomer. Kal v'chomer appears in our parsha, at the end of our parsha, about the Bnei Israel waiting for Miriam. So we say, Rabbi Akiva says a woman is believed to bring her get from a kal v'chomer. And what's the kal v'chomer? Just like those women who the Chachamim say are not believed to say that her husband died. Just like those women who are not believed to say that these other women's husband have died are believed to bring her get. This woman who she herself is believed to say her own husband has died, for sure she should believe to bring a get. And then the Gemara continues, we malkam Shabbat, and since from the place where you come, we can learn even more. And just like in that case, just like in the case of those 5 women who bring the get, they need to say b'fanei nechtam when they bring the get, when we believe them. So this, by the way, is a proof for Abaye that we believe them only when they're bringing the get from overseas. So too, a woman who herself brings the get, she needs to say Anyway, we see from Abaye that this is a price of support that's in line with Abaye's approach. We believe the woman when she brings the get and says Amar Ravashi must Nisa Nami Deka. Ravashi says we can even infer this from our Mishnah. Because what does our Mishnah say? Aisha Asam via get, the woman herself brings her get. As long as she's required to say the woman herself could bring her get. That's what Abaye says. That's what our Mishnah says. Shema Mina. So we see from here that she herself needs to say from the fact that the case of the woman who's bringing her own get is from Chutz La'aretz. Also, the woman can bring in the get on behalf of others must be where she's bringing from overseas. So the Gemara says, Rav Yosef, how does Rav Yosef explain our Mishnah? Reisha, the first cause of our Mishnah, which Rashi says goes back to the case of the blind person, where we said that everybody's kosher to bring the get except for the blind person. And there we're talking about where the blind person is bringing it from outside of Israel. And the seifa, this case of the woman who's bringing the get is she herself brings the get, it's from outside of Israel, but mitziasa ba'aretz, but the middle case is in the land of Israel. Because how do we know that the middle case is in the land of Israel? Because he says even those women they're believed. And Rabbi Yosef says that refers to when they're in Israel that they're believed. So does it really make sense that the Reisha and the Seifa are outside of Israel and the middle case is in Israel? And Gemara says, yeah, that is how he learns it. In Reisha, Seifa b'chutz haaretz, mitziasa ba'aretz. That's exactly what we're saying. And the Gemara says, and the Gemara now asks the question, according to Rabbi Yosef, how can he prove that that's the case? How does he know that? How does he know that? So the Gemara says, Midiktani, it's proof from the Mishnah because it says, Ma ben get lamisa shaksav mochiach. Says, what's the distinction between get and death? Because writing is what the writing was what proves it. But doesn't say that also if she testifies about death, she doesn't say funny nachtam, but when she testifies about a get, she does say it. So for that proof, it says Rav Yosef, they were not talking about a case where she says, but funny nachtam. But in that case where she has to say funny nachtam, Rav Yosef says we wouldn't believe her. Says the Gemara that the Mishnah had said that woman herself brings her get, and when she brings her own get as acting as her own agent, she says, "B'fanei nachtam." So the Gemara says, but we don't understand the scenario. How does this even happen? Isha mechimata gital yada egresha. The second the get comes into her hands, she's going to be divorced. So Amar Afuna ba'omer, where he says to her husband says to her, "Votis garshi bo el b'fnei bezin." You're only going to become divorced when you come before this bezin. So the Gemara says, well, it doesn't matter. So kimata hasim igrashaleh. When would she ever say funny nachtam? Right when she rises before the court, she's divorced. So second approach says Rafuna Rafuna bar Manoach mishmei the Rav Acha parei the Rav Ika the Amar kimata sasam as mechaya arav v'shachli. When you get there, put the get on the ground, and then when you pick it up, you'll be divorced. So put the get on the ground, say funny nachtam. So the Gemara says, well, if that's the case, it's a big problem. Because that's the case which Gemara is going to discuss on Ayin Chesam and Aleph, which says, if the husband throws the get on the ground and he says, take the get off the ground, that's not a case of him giving it to her, so she's not divorced. It's nothing. So the third approach. He says to her, I want you to be my agent to bring it until you get there. And once you get there, then you need to automatically turn into an agent to receive the get. And accept your get. Gemara says this is not actually a valid mechanism. That doesn't work. In order for an agency to work, the agency has to be able to go back to the husband. I mean, it's a very difficult phrase. The Rishonim discuss it. But basically, this is not the way agency works. You can't automatically turn from being his agent into her agent without first somehow terminating his agency. So that's how Rashi seems to explain it. So the Gemara says that's not a valid approach. So fourth approach, the husband says to her, bring the get there. Once you arrive there, once you get there, once you get there, then I want you to become an agent to receive the get. Meaning to say, he says to her, become a shliach to bring it. And when you get there, appoint an agent to receive it. on your behalf. So the Gemara says, well, that was also problematic because there is an approach that says that a woman can appoint an agent to receive the get from her husband's agent. But there's another approach that says according to the approach says that a woman cannot appoint another agent to receive it from her husband, then this is from her husband's agent, and this is not a valid solution. So the Gemara says, no, even according to the approach that says that a woman can't appoint an agent to receive a get from her husband's agent, what will be the reasoning? Michael Maimer, time of because it's disrespectful to the husband. She says, I'm not going to get it from your agent, give it to my secretary, give it to my agent. No, that's disrespectful. But here the husband wouldn't care, and so it'll be okay. The Gemara says, yeah, but still, but that's only good according to the one who says that what's the reason why a woman can't appoint an agent to receive the get from her husband's agent because it's disrespectful. But there's another possible reason as another reason why a woman suggested that a woman can't appoint an agent to receive a get from her husband's agent is because it's too similar to a case where a get is not allowed, where the man puts the get in somebody else's courtyard, and then that person who owns that courtyard sells the courtyard to the woman, and the get goes along with it. There, he didn't give it directly to the woman. He didn't give it to an agent. He gave it to somebody else. So maybe this case of the agent will be confused of that case of the courtyard. So the Gemara says, according to that approach, who says that's the reason why she can't appoint an agent to accept it from his agent. Ma'iko Meimar. So the Gemara has to say, the Amar, well, he says to her, be my agent to bring the get until you get there. When you get there, appoint another agent to bring it, and then then accept the get from the other agent. That would seem to be an approach without problems. Or alternatively, you buy the same at the Amar. Be my agent until you get there. Once you arrive there, you're still my agent. Then say in front of the court, say in front of the court, this was written and signed in front of me. And then appoint the agent to be the court, very similar to the previous answer. And the court will give it to you. So that would be a valid approach. So Hadranawach, I maybe get. So now we're up to the next chapter. Kol get shenichtav shelo l'shem isha. Any get that was not written specifically for this woman is disqualified. Pasul is disqualified. We're going to see all the cases which they disqualify. Ketzad. What are examples of these gets which were not written with the proper intention and thereby disqualified? Number one, over bashuk. He's passing in the marketplace. V'shama kolso from Makron. Here's the scribes talking, and they say Ish ploni megarish es plonis mimakam ploni. He says. Yaakov is divorcing Rachel from Mesopotamia. So then Amar and this guy's walking by, and the guy says, well, my name is Yaakov Zeshmi, and my wife's name is Rachel Zeshem Ishti. Let me just get this get. No, that's no good. Pasul Garish, but we can't do that. Number two, yes, or McCain Kassel Garish sister. Let's say he says, a man says, I'm going to divorce my wife. Yaakov says, I'm going to divorce Rachel. And then he decides, you know what? I changed my mind. I have to get it. Changed my mind. Matzu ben Iro, and then somebody else from the town is also Yaakov ben Rachel. Says, yeah, I got the same name as you. Let me save the money. I don't want to pay the scribe. I could save a few bucks. Let me use your get. Pasul, that's no good. Pasul Garishbo. That's case number two, which is no good. Number three, yes, there became. Let's say Yaakov himself has two wives, and both are named Rachel. Mishmosei and Shabbos, they have the same name. Let's say he uses the get to divorce Rachel, who's 20. He writes the get to divorce Rachel, who's 30. He can't use it to divorce Rachel, who's 29. He can't have written the get for one woman, and now he wants to use it for the other woman, even though she has the exact same name. Fourth case, Yeser Mikain, Amar L'Ablar, he says to the scribe, listen, I've got two wives with the exact same name. And Agarish, you write it, and then whichever one I want to, I'll divorce with it. Now, Pasul Agarish, but he can't use that to divorce her. So the Gemara says, because of Agarish is Ishto, let's say he finds a man who wrote a get to divorce his wife, and Nimach changes his mind. If that's the case, what's the difference between that case and the first case? Isn't the first case the guy wrote it get to divorce his wife and now he changed his mind? What's the difference? So Amar Papa Basof and Hasuyan Islam. The first case was referring to scribes who were just teaching their students. It wasn't even a specific woman. They were just teaching their students how to write a get. And Amar Ravashi Dekanami, indeed we can infer this to Katani Sofra Makrin that the scribes are like calling out, like call and response. Well, Katani Sofra and Koran doesn't say that they're actually reading it the way a scribe would to read it to correct their mistakes. Shmamina. So Ma Yeser McCain, so it says the Gemara, explain to me all these. Why do we need all four cases? So Tana the Be'er Rebbe Shmuel, and he explains as follows: not only the first case is no good, and that wasn't even written for a specific divorce, and not only that is not sufficient intent. The second case, the mission was written for a specific divorce, but it wasn't written for your wife. They're both possible. Not only the second case, which was not written for his own divorce, but even the third case, which he wrote for his own wife to divorce her, he just has two wives by the same name, possible. And not only that, the fourth case is not only this one that was not written for to divorce the right woman, but even though this was written for to divorce the right woman, we're just not clear which of your wives yet you want to use it for, apostle. So that will all be disqualified. So Gemara says, my time. What's the reason why all these cases are disqualified? Well, the verse had said, because of v'nasan la, because of sefer krisus v'nasan biyada. So the Gemara explains, because of v'nasan, if it just said v'nasan sefer krisus biyada, avamino mute hayakama, then I would say it's excluding the first case. He wasn't writing it for a specific divorce. Of a cause of a garish issue, but if he wrote it to divorce his wife, if it was written for a divorce, he just changed his mind about which guy and woman were getting divorced. I might have thought it's okay. Of a cause of garish issue, he did it for a specific divorce. So therefore, cause of Rahman of a cause he has to write it for her. It has to be written for a divorce. And he caused Rahman of Vikasav, if the Torah just said Vikasav Havamina, I might have said it's Miyute Hai Duo Iu Kakasivla. I might have said it's if it doesn't write Vikasav law, I might have said it's coming to exclude a case where he didn't have it written for her. But if he has two women, if he has two wives that he himself wrote the get, then I might have thought a makasher. So therefore, because of Rahman Allah was shma, it has to be written for this specific woman. V'seifa, and then in the last case where it says I can't, where he says write it, they're both of the same name, and I'll tell you which one I want to use it for after. Lamaway. So they'll say, what's the last case teaching us? The aim brera, that we don't say brera. Brera is going to be the primary discussion of tomorrow's daf. It's the very, very important concept throughout the Shas, which is that whether or not we say a future event can help us determine the facts about a past event. So our Mishnah is saying we don't say that this divorce, which is being written on Monday, and the husband's saying write it in a state, and I'll tell you on Tuesday who I meant it for. We don't say that the husband's determination on Tuesday can help us retroactively determine which woman the get was really written for. That's a dispute throughout Shas, and our Mishnah is saying we don't say brera. So first, before we get to the brera discussion, we have a discussion as to what is the real nature of this divorce. Says the Mishnah that if he wrote to get to divorce the older woman, if he wrote to get to divorce the older woman, he can't use it to divorce the younger woman. They both have the same name and they're both his wife. Gemara says, okay, he can't use it to divorce the younger woman, but he can divorce the older woman, even though there's another woman by the same name. Meaning to say, his older wife can produce this document in court and say, look, I prove I was divorced. So the Gemara says, Amarava. So Rabba teaches us. Zosomeres. This is proof. Shnei Yosef and Shimon Adar B'Yarachas. Let's say there are two people by the same name living in this town. Motzi and Shtar Chov Alacherem. They can both produce. He can produce a Shtar Chov on other people. Meaning, say there's a guy named Yosef and Shimon, and Yosef and Shimon comes to the court and says to Reuven, "I have a document that says that you owe Yosef and Shimon money. Pay me." And Reuven can't say, "No, I don't owe you. I owe the other Yosef and Shimon." That's like this case where this woman's divorced. Even she can use it to be divorced if she's the older woman, even though there's another woman by the same name. Amrulay Abaye. So Abaye says, "Almeata Reisha de Katani." What about the first case, the first clause, which says Shmi Kishimcha Pasal Darshbo? In the first case, where there's another person by the same name and his wife is by the same name, that's disqualified. And then he says, "Let me just give you the get." That's no good. Sheni Udolamati Megarish Bar Ritzo Megarish Bar. But the first woman can be divorced with it. But why? Why could he? Why would he be able to be divorced in that case? But don't we say? Don't we say below acher? Hold on one second. But didn't we learn in the Mishnah and Baba Basra? But why would he be able? Why would the first person be able to divorce his wife with it? Don't we say in the case in Baba Basra that somebody else cannot produce an IOU note upon them? And that means, let's say Reuven himself would have a note that says Yosef and Shimon owes me money. Then he can't go to this Yosef and to one of the Yosef and Shimon say you owe me money because there's two of them. And so therefore also this husband can claim that he didn't divorce this woman. It was a different other person who divorced this woman. So why would that be a valid proof that she was divorced? So we must have to say, we have to say that this document was handed over, this get was handed over in front of these two women, in front of these two witnesses. And follows Rabbi Elazar. And Hachinami also in this third case where he writes to divorce the older woman, talking about a case where he divorced her by Be'edim Masir, Rabbi Elazar, and so therefore it's not a proof about the two Yosef and Shimons living in the same town. So then the Gemara says, Amarav, Kulim Poslim B'Kuhuna, that all of these cases we're going to say they disqualify the Kohen. Meaning to say that if the person was divorced, was married to a Kohen, and they use these types of divorce which are disqualified, we're going to say that even though the divorce is disqualified, good morning. Even though the divorce is disqualified, we're still not going to allow them to remarry to the Kohen. It's going to have the some element of the divorce that they're disqualified. Chutz min harisha, with the exception of the first case, which is so off. We're going to have a dispute about which of these cases have what's called the reach haget, the smell of a get. So even though they're not technically divorced, nevertheless, they will be disqualified to ever marry a Kohen because of the status of a divorced woman. Shmuel says, Afa Rishon Nami Poso. Shmuel says also the first case is going to be this woman. In the first case, she can't remarry her husband, and she's disqualified to all Kohanim. And Shmuel says, Emer Shmuel kol makom sheshanu chachamim get pasol, because Shmuel says every place where the rabbi said that this get is disqualified, pasol uposel. It not only is the get disqualified, it also disqualifies the woman from marrying a Kohen. And also any place where it says chalitza pesua, any case where it says that the chalitza, the removal of the shoe by the woman and spitting on the floor to allow her to move on with her life and not do yibum, any case where we say that is disqualified, pesua, not only does it disqualify, not only is the chalitza disqualified, but she's also no longer allowed to do yibum with any of the other brothers. So Shmuel says even this first case, which is posel, it's also posel. It means that she's disqualified from marrying a Kohen. The Marava Amri in Eretz Yisrael, they said in the name of Rebbe Elazar, the Marava Amri Mishmei de Rebbe Elazar. It says small laila psuos uposlos. In Eretz Yisrael, they said with respect to chalitza, if it was done with the left foot and not the right, or a chalitza that was done at night, Both of them are psuos. They're not effective chalitzas to allow her to remarry, but nevertheless, posos, they disqualify her to marry the other brothers. Katan v'an pila, let's say it was done by a minor, the chalitza was done by a minor, and it was done with an ampila, meaning to say that's not a chalitza because ampila is a canvas shoe as opposed to a leather shoe. You have to use a leather shoe to remove from his foot for chalitza. Psuos, they're so disqualified, but imposlos. But those chalitzas are not effective, but they don't disqualify the man from doing, they don't disqualify her from doing yibum with the brothers. A third approach, Ziri says, Kulan ain posla. None of these Gittin are disqualified. Chutz mina achron, with the exception of the last one. The last one will disqualify from marrying the Kohen. That's where he says the case of Brera, where he says, if, and I'll tell you which one I had in mind later on. Rabbi Yochanan Amar Af Achron Nami Ein Posel. Rabbi Yochanan says even the last case is not going to disqualify the woman from marrying the Kohen. And so basically Rabbi Yochanan says that there's no Brera whatsoever. And the Gemara is now going to go into a discussion of Brera, but that'll be for the Daf Yomi for Shabbos, which we'll also do at noon today. And the big shkoyach, let me stop the recording.